Well, I am Steve Russell, a native of Del City. I'm the husband of 28 years to my wife, Cindy, who's here this morning, and a father of 5 grown children, 3 of whom were adopted orphan siblings from Hungary. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. I fought as an infantryman on 3 continents over a 21-year period. I wrote the book We Got Him, published by Simon & Schuster, about the capture of Saddam and our unit's part in it. You can visit the Oklahoma History Center and see some of the artifacts related to that, including one of Saddam's uniforms. I returned to Oklahoma after the Army and served a full term in the state Senate from 2008 to 2012. Returning to private life, I created Two Rivers Arms because I wanted to bring home a souvenir from the war and couldn't. We're a member of the Central Oklahoma Manufacturers Association. I've created 4 manufacturing jobs in Oklahoma City. That's 4 more than the president. Our rifles, built here in Oklahoma City, will be featured in Clint Eastwood's upcoming film, American Sniper, this fall. Our nation needs leaders that can solve problems. As a combat soldier, I've had to make decisions many times instantly, where it was not someone's comfort or convenience, but rather people's lives that was at stake. As a lawmaker, I passed bipartisan reforms that cut taxes, reformed adoption, and expanded our constitutional rights. As a businessman, I have felt the pressure of making a payroll and juggling the expense of workers' comp, excise taxes, liability insurance, and intrusive regulation. I refuse to quit on this great nation. We must not become cynics and critics whose only solutions are mere sideline snipes about what's wrong with this country. Solomon said, "Without a vision, the people perish." As difficult as our problems are, there's no problem we face we cannot solve. I've led before, and I can lead again. I would continue to be that kind of leader in Washington and would be honored to have your vote. The first thing we do need to do is lease and let the permits. We had 19 permits that were let in Sabine to start shipping liquid natural gas to our European allies. This is immensely important so Gazprom doesn't have a lock hold on our alliances that we have in Europe. Build the XL pipeline. We also need to open federal lands that allow us to do exploration and then use a percentage of the profits that come from the opening of federal lands that will go to reduce the deficit. These measures are bipartisan. People in the Haynesville Shale in Louisiana get it, whether they're Republican or Democrat. We also need to open up all of the other shales to include Monterey Shale, which is in California. We could revitalize the economy of the United States, much like the advent of steam power that we saw in the early 1800s. The solutions are not difficult, but the will to get them done by the current administration is. We must curb deficit spending. It is weakening our entire nation and its economic livelihood. You can't run a business where your only future is looking at past expenditures to determine how your course might be set over the next year. I mean, that would put all of us out of business. So we have to curb deficit spending. The other thing I would like to see that excise taxes. Why do we punish the privilege of just having manufactured something? 10, 11% excise taxes we see on goods and products, and they still will tax profits later. And so by rewarding productivity and then taxing the profits later, that's fine. But punishing productivity and punishing profits, that's not. Trade is immensely important, but we don't need supernumeraries that are set up deciding how the United States should make trade agreements. Instead, it should be nation to nation, not with someone else calling the shots on our trade. All of these are vital to a vibrant national economy. I think one of the problems that we see in our current Congress is the inability to lead and solve problems. I've had a little bit of experience of that in very difficult circumstances. America trusted me with 1,000 of her sons and a few of her daughters in harm's way, and the mantle of that leadership has been very difficult when you realize that the decisions that you make could determine whether or not that child of theirs comes home to their family, has their grandchildren. All of these things are enormous weight of responsibility. So carrying that requires diligence. We've seen that modeled by James Langford in a wonderful fashion. He keeps the district informed. I think the ability to persuade to build relationships. As a soldier most of my adult life, I know how to work on teams. The color of our skin was camouflage. We all bled red. These ideals of Americanism are very, very important, and we see a very divisive country now. But I think that it's important that we don't do that. There's only 17 combat veterans in the House of Representatives today. Only 88 have even served in the military out of 435. You want to know why we're having some foreign policy decision problems and some military decision problems? There you go. Carol Shea Porter is determining your national defense. I think we also must adhere to the constitutional principles. I'm very predictable. 2 filters I will always use: my Judeo-Christian ethic based upon my faith in Jesus Christ, and the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of the United States. I fought for those liberties, and I will use them to protect life, liberty, and property. I'm an optimist. There's not much future in pessimism. Our nation still has great capacity. We have economic resources to turn around our country with our oil and gas industry. We have innovative people that can still create, work, and solve problems. We have the assurance of an almighty God that if we are faithful with what He has granted us, He will not fail. What we don't have is national leadership that will put the country before themselves. I have, and I will. Why? Because there are still things worth fighting for in our great country. America has never been built on the labor and counsel of cynics and critics. Fortunately, there are still Americans who know how to sacrifice, that know the difference between what is evil and what is good, whether to live free or become a disengaged cynic and watch our nation before our very eyes perish. But thank God America still has Oklahomans such as you this morning that get this as well. But now it's the time to work, take risks, and sacrifice. Sacrifice what? How about doubt? How about anxiety? How about cynicism? We must stand shoulder to shoulder as Oklahomans to prevent our nation from being overcome by the self-indulgent, the divisive, and the visionless. And as visionary as we Oklahomans and lovers of liberty claim to be, we'll make little headway if our only answers are mere sideline snipes about what's wrong with our country today. Our task, as we have shown in Oklahoma, is to show the American people what's right with our country, ignore the cynics, and get to work. It starts June 24th. And I would be honored to have your vote and be your voice in Washington as your next congressman. Go to steverussellforcongress.com and help us spread the word. Thank you for the privilege to speak to you this morning.